Aloha and welcome everyone to Maui Nonprofit Notes, the weekly radio show where we talk story with Maui's nonprofit executive directors and their staff to find out how they're working to support the needs within our community. Maui Nonprofit Notes is generously sponsored by Pacific Source. If you're building or remodeling a home, you've just got to stop by Pacific Source's Cabinet and Appliance Showroom in the Waikapu Bayshard. I'm Susie Tiemann, Executive Director of Lokahi Pacific and President of the Maui Nonprofit Directors Association. For those of you who listen each week, you know that during this hour we share the experiences of how our agencies are working to benefit our island home with stories of how they are changing lives, changing communities, creating miracles of hope for those in need. Today we're going to start off our program with a couple of folks from the Maui Family YMCA. A very familiar name to everyone. We've got Mike Morris, who's the CEO, and Jason Justice, who's the Senior Program Director. Welcome to the show, guys.
Good afternoon, Susie. Thanks for having us.
What a beautiful day, huh?
Oh,
Absolutely.
Another beautiful day in Maui.
Oh, this is the time to get out there and exercise and not just go back and sit down and eat lunch.
I hear you. Yeah.
What have you got for those of us who sit in the office all day and could do something at noon?
Well, there's actually a really good group that come down to the Y at lunchtime. It's one of our busiest times. Early in the morning, 5:30, we usually have a pretty, I guess, reliant group that comes in. I want to say dedicated, but I think they're actually crazy to be working out at 5:30 in the morning. And they're requesting we open at 5 because that's not early enough for some strange reason. And then there's another group that come in around 12 o'clock. That's a good group, and it's usually the people from Wailuku that are working and want a place to work out in a quick amount of time, so they'll run down to the Y and get a quick workout in. And then again, the next group is after work that come in. And I don't want to forget my seniors. They're normally there between 8 and 10 o'clock in the morning, so it's a pretty busy place for us. And thank goodness we've been off a couple of weeks because our pool's been down. We had a pool pump problem, and oh man, I got to tell you, we're so happy to have it back up and running, and the folks back active at the Y. So we're in full swing. The kids are back in school, so it's a good place to come and just get away for an hour.
So just as the kids were getting out of the pool, everybody's set to go back and enjoy it, and the pump goes down.
Yeah.
Oh, ouch.
Yeah.
Angry crowd.
Yeah. You should read my comment cards.
No, you shouldn't.
Oh, okay. So now do we have a spare pump on standby?
We are. We're taking the old pump out that, it's not working, and going to refurbish it and have it sit by so that we can keep our pool going from now on. I don't want to go through that again.
It's unbelievable how attached everybody gets, right?
People get in their routines, and they don't like it to be changed,
Mm-hmm.
and I certainly understand that. And I really apologize to the community for letting that happen, but we'll try to work harder in the future not to let that happen again, for sure.
And I'm sure they all appreciate that because they know you're a man of your word.
That's right. So we do, and it's funny. I was telling this story the other day at the board meeting that I get comment cards, and some really nice comment cards and some not so nice, but I communicate all those comment cards in public. I put them out email, and sometimes I was starting to put it on Facebook, but I thought it gets pretty cumbersome, and then trying to answer all the responses to my responses, it gets really, I could spend all day on Facebook instead of actually doing a real job. So I am putting out email blasts, so anybody who wants to get my comment cards, you can send me an email at mauiymca@gmail.com, and I'll put you on the list. Some people think my responses to the comments are funny. Some think they're not so funny. So I respond very honestly and how I feel about it, and again, I answer every comment. I put every comment out there for the public. And the reason I bring that up is there are 2,400 YMCAs across the country. I don't know of another one that does that.
Wow.
So we communicate well, I guess, or maybe too well.
I was going to say, you're kind of exposed there, aren't you?
We are, and it lets everybody know where our dirty laundry is. So, but that's okay. Transparency is important for the Y and what we're trying to do, and we see a lot of these things in pool pumps, and we talk about a lot of little things, but there are bigger issues,
Right.
There are bigger issues in our community and in the country as well. Youth obesity is there's probably not a week that doesn't go by you don't see something in the Maui News or certainly on the internet about how we're growing larger,
Right.
pun
Right.
intended,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
And how we're trying to combat some of that. So we got a few new things happening at the Y,
Okay.
not only physically but also for our mental health and education and those kind of things. One I want to mention is we've just signed a deal with Maui College to work with their nursing program, which I'm really excited about. They're going to send a couple of nurses to the Y to do some practicum work on a weekly basis. I want to say it's somewhere around 15 hours a week. And we'll be doing some really cool programming with them, looking at our workplace wellness policies and doing evaluations, doing blood pressure screenings, maybe body mass index testing or screening as well. And then coming up with some kind of evaluation that lets people know whether we're having some kind of impact on the community, because we might be just doing a whole lot of work and not getting an impact. So we want to make sure we're having some kind of impact. So I'm excited about that program. The other one is we just received a $50,000 grant from the Atherton Foundation through the 21st Century program. And it's going to be doing tutoring programs in 2 of our after-school programs. Kihei and Haiku are the 2 that we'll be doing. We're now in 5 different sites.
Oh, you are?
A plus, and over 1,200 kids a day, which is a big
My
responsibility, but we love it. We love having that responsibility because it gives us opportunity to address some of the growing issues that we're having in our country and right here in Maui. Teaching kids about health and wellness and living healthier lifestyles is really important for us.
And what age group are we talking about here?
K through 6.
K through 6.
Yeah,
Okay.
so we started early, educating them early. We're actually just coming off too a physical education program grant that ended last year. Hopefully, we'll be able to. We're going to write again next year for another one that helps teach kids about physical education and actually works with them in the schools. Because here in Hawaii, we don't have physical education programming in elementary schools.
We don't?
We don't. You don't get it until you get into high school.
Oh my gosh, I had no idea.
And by that time, it almost seems like it becomes punishment.
Yeah.
Right? So, hey, run a lap because you did something bad, or do 10 push-ups because you did something bad. And so sometimes our kids are equating, exercise and wellness to punishment. So we want to start a little earlier, talk about it's fun, it's educational, it's can change lifestyles if we can get in there earlier. So the Y over the last 6 years has been in almost every single elementary school on Maui doing our physical education programming. And we want to restart that program again. And hopefully if the federal government doesn't go broke, we'll get another one of those grants and be able to continue that program.
That's incredible. How long ago did the elementary schools quit that?
Oh, gosh, since actually No Child Left Behind. So it's been some years.
10 years?
Yeah, at least, yeah.
Oh my gosh.
And so when you look at the correlation between the obesity rate in youth and how rapidly it's growing, and not only that, the CDC says it's become an epidemic, which it has. It's kind of strange that we've taken on. Okay, well, we want to be smarter, and that's important. We want math and arithmetic and being able to read and write and all those kind of things, but we forgot about our health. And you can't do both. You can't have smart people without good health, and you can't have good health without smart people.
Right.
So we certainly want to try to have an impact on that here in Maui for sure.
And the program that we actually were running too is that it actually went into the schools and taught them how to adapt mathematics and science into PE, where you can actually teach them both at the same time. So actually it was a really good program. So after we did leave, after the PEP grant, after the PE grant, that the teachers were able to take that material and use it in the classroom. So that was cool.
So they could continue it, but I suppose time is the problem.
Correct. Yes.
The shorter the days we have, the less time the teachers have to work with the
Right.
kids, and we of course can't have somebody else come in as another teacher for those classes because adds to the expenses again.
Exactly.
Right.
So it's all about cost and where the priorities are, right? So
But
we're trying to
what higher
solve that
priority?
problem. Yeah, exactly.
You know, I mean, it's just
Exactly. The health of our children. That's
basic
right.
to me.
Yeah, I agree.
And that's why the program is so vital, because then you can cross-train and they can learn two things: being active, and then as well as doing science or mathematics or history by doing different things. So being physically active. So that's
And-
nice.
There's got to be some fun way to learn history.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay, so that's what you're working on, and you've got some other things that is brewing, as I understand.
Along what Mike was saying about in the tutor program and the A+ programs, but we're actually being the YMCA and the world's leader of childcare, we're actually trying to evolve more where we can actually do a little bit more in our after school programs. And now that we have 5 sites, we're actually doing more theme months with our kids. August, say, right now in our school being started, actually doing a lot of teamwork things. September would be safety first, so it goes on to the point where we're actually going towards our core values, which honesty, respect, responsibility, and caring. We're actually trying to bring those into, a little bit more in depth into our kids, so we can kind of show them and have them learn something so they can go home and teach their parents something. So we're kind of, we're testing the waters here. We're seeing if, of course, the parents are always the ones teaching the kids. We're going to try to flip that a little bit and see if that actually works. So teamwork is one of these things. If you come to one of our after-school programs, teamwork is the theme of this month, and so we're gonna see. It's not just gonna be in sports, but it's also gonna help in homework and everything. So hopefully it'll be kind of something that'll be catching on.
So where do you have these classes?
These are actually, it's going to be our day-to-day operations at our after-school programs.
Okay.
So if your kids are part of the after-school programs that we have, they'll actually be getting that throughout the day. And anything they do, from sports to sharing or teamwork with snacks or anything like that with their homework. So, so every month is going to be based on a different theme. So that's going to be kind of a cool thing to try to adapt.
So is this something that they sign up for monthly?
Actually, it's through the DOE.
Through the
It's
DOE.
it's
Okay.
the after-school program that we have, and so we're a private provider, and they hired us to come in and do their after-school program. So we're trying to take it a step further and give these kids more than they bargained for. Give them some more
Gotcha,
lessons. So absolutely.
So this is moving forward with the program that started many
Correct.
years ago, where a lot of people called it babysitting.
Right.
Absolutely,
After school.
absolutely.
Well,
We're
we
trying
went-
to get these kids learn something every day, either about the YMCA or about themselves, and take it home and start flipping the script a little bit on their parents and try to to teach them a little bit. So
Cool, great.
yeah,
And that's the age group for that is
up K through 5
K
actually
through 5.
after school programs. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
okay, because 6 turns into
Middle school.
middle school.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Oh, that's a whole different animal there. So, which is it's always it's a difficult age to try to reach, because they're starting to get too cool for a lot of things. But we find it we're always trying to evolve more programs and try to get in there and try to get these kids involved with the YMCA somehow. So that's a challenge across the country.
That's
So
cool.
we're
So
working on it.
about how many kids do you have in these 5?
About
groups?
1,200 kids. 1,200 kids
Wow.
per day. So we're at our 5 different sites. So
Ooh.
so yeah. So we're
That's a lot.
yeah. It's our staff's gone through a lot of training, and they're taking it as it goes, and we're, like I said, we're just evolving into a new program and making the most of it. So these kids should have a good time, and hopefully they'll learn some more stuff about themselves and about other people.
Right. Wow. Is
So-
there anything you don't do?
Well, yeah, there are a few things. I thought it was, electrical work and
Then the pool pump
AC
came around.
work and pool pumps, but now it seems I'm certified in all of those areas. But no, there are a lot. We've got a big job to do, and we take it very seriously. And we certainly want people to enjoy coming to the Y and helping us address some of the issues that are out there in the community. I just want to say too that we have some new and exciting activities coming up, and if you want to follow us on Facebook, you can at Maui YMCA, or on Twitter. Either one, use those two. Use Maui YMCA, and you should be able to find us on both of them. We do also have a website at MauiYMCA.org. that you can follow some of the information. But the day-to-day stuff you can get on Facebook or
Right.
Twitter. Yeah.
Let's hold these upcoming things until after the break. Okay, that's
You got it.
called suspense.
great, yeah.
You got it.
We'll be
Gotcha.
back in a bit.
Aloha from Pacific Source, and thank you for your support over the years. Pacific Source has offered more of what builders and homeowners value most in building materials and cabinet design. We've done this by offering superior customer service and products, as well as by designing kitchens and baths that are intelligent and elegant while staying true to your vision and budget. Visit our showroom in Waikapu in Central Maui, where we display a variety of cabinets as well as top-name appliances like Sub-Zero, Wolf, Viking, KitchenAid, and more. We display countertops, tile and wood flooring, and several brands of windows and doors, including Fleetwood multi-slides and La Cantina folding doors. Come in and talk to our designers about making your dreams become a reality. From concept to completion, we really believe our attention to detail and superior service are what sets us apart. Let us show you what we mean. We are a Pacific Source at 515 East Oahe Way in the Consolidated Base Yard in Waikapu, just off Waiko Road. Call us at 986-0380. That's 986-0380, or look us up online at packsource.com.
And we are back. This is Maui Nonprofit Notes, and in this half hour, we're talking story with Mike Morris and Jason Justice of the Maui Family YMCA. And the first part of the discussion here, we were talking about the after-school programs and some of the new things that they're bringing to that program. And I think when we left for the break, we said we had some things coming up that we could give you some tidbits about.
Yeah, so maybe, Jason, you want to talk a little bit about the triathlon.
Absolutely. The date's not set yet. It's always a challenge trying to get dates nailed down, but we're looking to do the first and only kids triathlon. It's going to be 12 years under. And what's very, very cool, it's a kind of a cool concept that one of our staff members came up with, and we actually did some research, and some other YMCAs on the mainland have doing it and been pretty successful. Kids start swimming in our pool. We'll make a small little routine in the pool. They'll get out, they'll get on their bikes, and they'll ride around Keopolani Park, and then they'll end up, and this is something that Mike in the Pioneer Healthy Community Coalition is actually helping out and doing. But we're actually going to finish out in the War Memorial Stadium. So that's kind of a cool thing, having a 5-year-old come in with a number on their chest and having their name actually announced over the speaker in War Memorial Stadium actually would be kind of a cool little view.
Wow.
So we're working on that. We're looking at doing that it actually might vary from November sometime all the way up until probably in May. So we'll have a little bit more information. You can follow that on Facebook for sure. And our website will have more information for that. But we're just nailing those dates down first is the number one key. So it should be a lot of fun.
That should be neat.
I'm picturing this.
Yeah.
You know,
all these little kids
Yeah.
on their
Very
little
cool.
tricycles and bicycles and
Yes.
do it. I know it. I just can't.
And we
wait.
have area bike shops behind us where they'll come in and they'll tune up their bikes for free, and they'll sponsor and we're working on donations for bikes because a lot of kids don't have bikes. So we're going to make sure that everyone can actually participate and do it safely. So it's going to be kind of a cool event.
Again, follow us. Follow us on Facebook or go to the website and look for those dates in the future. Or you can call Jason at the YMCA at 242-9007 and ask him a little more about it. Or if you want to be a donor or be involved in it, let us know.
Absolutely, volunteers are always needed.
So if I have a child that I want to make sure gets involved in this, I should follow up at this point.
Yeah.
And get his name on a list or our names
Yeah,
or something.
Absolutely.
Yeah, or we'll certainly do some media blast too when the program
Right.
comes out. But yeah, certainly if you call us now and want to make sure you get the entry form in the mail, we'll make sure you get it.
And what we'll do too is before the actual event, we'll have a month maybe a month. Probably if it's going to be in November, it'll probably be soon. But we'll have a training packet where these kids will know exactly the amount of what they'll have to do, so they can get out there and maybe practice on Keopolani Park or run around their neighborhood or something like that, and get their parents involved, of course.
Sure.
So they can actually start training like an actual athlete or triathlon, maybe for the Ironman or something. So they can kind of get the feel of it. So that's kind of a cool thing.
You may have to do another one then for the 13 to
the older
17 or
yeah.
something.
Baby steps. But absolutely. That's our next
Yeah.
step for sure.
I gotcha. So, will there be a chance for them to actually train at the Y with this particular program in mind?
Absolutely, yes. We're working on the details, but that is one of our goals, is making sure that these kids can actually come into their pool, use our pool, and get used to their surroundings, and then being able to see the actual course. We'll have it outlined for them before anything, and we have to work with the County of Maui to make sure we have permits and everything, and the dates are set. But so they'll know their course, so they can actually take a couple practice runs before actually the actual event. And of course, it's not about the time; it's just about finishing and completing. So because
Right.
everyone wins at the Y. So, but it's kind of a cool thing because you know that you have some of those kids that have that watch and they're timing
Oh,
themselves,
wow, yeah,
which is
yeah.
cool because you need that. You need that little, that self motivation. But it's going to be a really cool event to be a part of.
Well, this is kind of like the soccer teams and the baseball or whatever they call it at that age. They don't keep score.
Right.
It's just playing the game and
Everyone
doing
wins.
your best. And,
Right.
And
Right.
but the parents, I understand, do keep score. They know exactly what's going on out there on the field.
Yes. There's some of those parents out there.
They're pretty
So,
competitive. Yeah.
But this is just so exciting.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't usually visualize things when people are talking about it, but this one I can just see this
Right.
one.
Yeah.
Right.
Pretty cool.
Oh gosh, yes, and especially if you can end it up at the stadium.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They come
yeah.
through the.
Yeah.
Yep.
And if I can get the mayor there, that'd be cool. Have the mayor there congratulating all the kids, that'd be awesome. So,
In talking about this, do you have any concept of how many kids might show up for something like this?
Well, with Maui, you can never tell.
Right.
And there's so many things happening on every weekend.
Right.
So, it's kind of a hit or miss. That's why the dates are so hard to nail down, because there's so many community events, which is a good thing. But when you're trying to plan something, it kind of is a thorn. So, it all depends on what's going on that weekend. So
I mean, but this is a great thing, whether there's 100 kids or 1,000 kids.
right.
absolutely,
Right.
absolutely.
Yeah.
So
Very cool. So, one of my favorite programs, and some people don't even think of it as a program at the Y, is our annual support campaign. And we just kicked that off in regards to recruitment of volunteers, which is, it actually doesn't start until February, March next year, but we're looking for volunteers right now. And what the annual support campaign is, it helps folks in our community that can't afford the full fee of the Y. Unfortunately, for me, it takes a certain amount of dollars to operate our organization, keep the fine facility, do the after-school programs, do the summer camp programs, do the fitness programs, do pioneering health communities. All those things take revenues.
Right.
And I'm saddened that people that sometimes just can't afford that fee when they want to come in to either be a Y member or, hey, I just want to take a swim lesson, or I want my kids to be in the summer camp. We do this annual support campaign every year to make sure that we don't turn anyone away due to inability to pay. That's important to me. It's important to all our staff, to our volunteers. So we're starting our recruitment right now on looking for people that can do that. When I grew up, my parents couldn't afford that. I'm one of 6 children,
Are you really?
and they both worked hourly jobs. So trying to imagine
Yeah.
what kind of resources my parents had, and programs like this allowed me to participate in programs that other kids had the advantage of being able to participate in because their parents had enough money to do that, or they didn't have 6 kids, right?
And what did that set an example for you the rest of your life?
It did, yeah. So I love that. It's my favorite thing to do. Everybody says, "Oh, I hate raising money. I hate raising money, and don't want to do that." But I don't look at it as that. All I'm doing is telling stories. I'm telling stories about people who have had that impact. I see the kids. That's what's really cool. I get to see them at the Y doing their thing that all the other kids in Maui are doing, and nobody knows.
Right.
Nobody knows that unfortunately their parents couldn't afford the full fee, but we make it available because the great volunteers and the donors. And our goals are lofty next year, $130,000.
Wow.
That we'll be giving back to the community. And we spend every dollar of that back to the community, actually more than that. This last year, our financial assistance was $150,000. I didn't raise that amount. My board's looking at me going, why aren't you raising that amount? So it's a real. That's why we're kicking it off early, looking for volunteers. If you're interested, would love to help in the community. Don't think of it as fundraising, and I'll tell you how you do it. Just give me a call and I'll tell you how you do it. It's really simple stuff. It's great work. You get to see some great impact on kids and families enjoying the quality programs we're doing. So you can call me. You can call Mike Morris at the Maui Family YMCA at 242-9007, and we can talk about it. You'll love it. You'll find no better volunteer work in the community. Yeah.
Well, I think the fact that there's not a special class that these people go into or anything.
Mm-mm.
They're part of all of the group that's learning and taking classes
Right.
and
Yeah, and a big
that's
part of
beautiful.
that money too. Well, not a big part. A portion of that money we use with the homeless resource center here too. We pick up or have kids come from the homeless resource center to the Y as a part of our summer day camp programs, and that's free for them. And nobody knows.
Yeah,
That's really cool.
that's
Nobody
terrific.
knows.
That's terrific.
Yeah.
You just don't know what it is that can turn somebody around
Mm-hmm.
and or put them on a special track. I mean, it's not their fault they're in that situation.
Right.
They're children.
Right.
Um,
It was very cool. I heard a mother say the other day that just was really cool. She said, "The memories and the stories my child will talk about when he's older are the moments he had at the Y."
wow,
Yeah.
that says it all.
Oh, doesn't it?
It does.
Yeah.
It
It
does.
just breaks me up to hear that. I mean, it was such a cool statement she made, and they received financial assistance. Otherwise he wouldn't have those experiences.
Terrific.
Yeah.
Good experiences with other kids.
Yeah.
You can't beat it.
I know.
And learning things and both mentally and physically.
Yep. Exactly.
Terrific.
Exactly.
Guys, a half hour's over.
Oh.
I can't believe it.
I know it.
I
How
had this whole
fun.
stack of things I was going to ask you, but you've got such exciting things going. I don't need to ask any questions.
We'll be back next week. How's that?
Okay, to be continued. You got it. You got it. And we do want to stay on top of the triathlon.
Absolutely. We'll make
So-
sure we get some more information for you.
Yeah, when you've got something, let us know, and we'll get you back on the show to talk more about it. 'cause
Sounds great.
I just think that's dynamite.
I agree.
Cool.
I agree.
Unbelievable. Thank you so much, Jason and Mike, for joining us, Maui Family YMCA. Have a
you.
great week.
Great.
Thank you.
Thanks for
Okay.
having us.
Yeah, thanks.
Take
Susie.
care.
All
Thank
right.
you. We're
Aloha.
gonna- Aloha. We're going to shift gears now. We're going to talk about some mental health issues, I think, aren't we, Robert?
I think there's issues to be talked about.
I think I think you're probably right. We've got Robert Colasano here, who is the Executive Director of Mental Health America of Hawaii Maui chapter. Now, in looking at the mental health website, is there just the statewide organization and then a Maui chapter, or do the other islands have chapters?
That's a good question. There's Mental Health America of Hawaii,
Mm-hmm.
and that covers the whole state of Hawaii. And Maui is the only other branch in the state. And we're affiliated with Mental Health Hawaii, which is headquartered in Oahu. And then we have a branch office here in Maui.
So does that say something for the needs that we have here versus
Well,
other areas, or are we just ahead of the game?
Maui's always been just kind of ahead of the game in the islands, I think, in a lot of ways. Now, I might get myself in trouble by saying that, but recently I met with a woman that's at Holly Makua right now, and she's 94 years old, and she was the one that started Mental Health America here in Maui. Wonderful, wonderful lady, and it was great to talk to her. And she told me some of the startup stories. You know how Mental Health America started nationwide? We're a national organization. It was started by a consumer. When I use that word consumer, I mean consumer of mental health services. So this is somebody that was in an asylum. And it started over 100 years ago. And his mistreatment in this asylum on the mainland got him to start Mental Health America. It's 109 years old.
Wow.
Used to be called the Mental Health Association, but it's the same organization. He just he wrote a book, and that's what started Mental Health America over 100 years ago. And a lot of people don't know this, but Mental Health America has been on Maui 40 years. We've
Right.
been providing services here on 40 years, going on 40 years. So it's, and about 70 years on
Yeah.
Oahu.
So, what in providing services? What would you say is the number one service that's called on?
Well, I have a tagline on my website and whenever I send out an email, and it's simply information when you need it most. And this morning I was on the phone with a woman that had called up, and she was trying to get mental health services here in Maui, and she was having a hard time. And that's what we do. We're a clearinghouse for mental health information here in Maui. But actually, lately we're doing even more than that, in the sense that our mandate is not to do direct services. However, our office here in Maui has been contracting out with agencies in the community. Like, I would get the grant, for example. I would apply for a grant, and then I'd get some money, and then I'd give it to a local agency to begin doing services. And we're doing some real neat stuff with that.
Well, I noticed on your website when you just a minute ago when you talked about kind of sending people to the proper places, you've got 29 pages
Yeah,
of partners.
yeah.
Of course, that's statewide, but it looked like there were a lot of Maui partners listed in there.
That's one of the neat things about Mental Health America. We don't really compete with anybody. I just sent out an email blast today. I have about 500 people on just the Maui email list. And I sent out a blast today, and I want to plug it, is Mental Health Kokua is having a film day on this coming Friday. It's a fundraiser for Mental Health Kokua, but they have a new executive director over there, Tom Vendetti, and of course he's very active in filmmaking and so on. So one of their first fundraisers, it's at the MAC, and it's this coming Friday all day long. There's kids' movies and so on during the day, and then there's a special presentation at night, 7 o'clock. But just call Mental Health Mental Health Kokua if you're interested. And that's the kind of things Mental Health America does.
I see.
We support any kind of mental health effort in the community.
So now, is that local films that he's done, or
No, they're things from. He's done films in the Himalayas, and he's really he's traveled wide. He's got about 7 or 8 different films there. They're not Maui films; they're national films that he's showing. It's
I
just
see.
part of his
I see.
his fundraising thing. And I send out email blasts about that to just educate
Right.
the community about what's going on.
Well, last time you were on, we spent a lot of time talking about youth suicides and bullying and things like that. And there was something that's on your website, a program, Live Your Life Well,
Yeah,
that I'd like to talk a little bit about today, if we could.
sure.
10 steps, 10 action items,
Yeah.
and basically reducing stress, which is one of the causes of mental illness. What can you tell me about what are some signs that people would see to realize that they need to talk to someone or get on a program like this?
Yeah, I guess I first want to mention when Mike and Jason from the Y were talking about what they do. I immediately thought of Live Your Life Well,
Uh-huh.
because that would be a perfect program that Mental Health America could come into the Y and do for them and the community. And by the way, I just want to let you know, these guys from the Y, Jason's like 6'7", and Mike, and these guys are like the epitome of good shape. And it's like, so whatever's happening at the Y, yeah,
Oh,
good,
right. Yeah, okay.
so whatever is happening at the Y is pretty cool. And I'm struggling, with diabetes and so on. So I probably need to get over there or something. But yeah, Mental Health America has this seminar program. It's a 12 step, 10 or 12 step program, and I can come in and do it in an agency for staff, for clients, in about 2 hours with a PowerPoint, and it teaches people about stress in your lives. You had asked about, some indicators of stress. Well, go ahead.
Can we hold on to that?
certainly
When we
can.
come back from the break, we'll start off with that.
Yeah, I won't stress out about that.
Okay, thanks.
Aloha from Pacific Source, and thank you for your support over the years. Pacific Source has offered more of what builders and homeowners value most in building materials and cabinet design. We've done this by offering superior customer service and products, as well as by designing kitchens and baths that are intelligent and elegant while staying true to your vision and budget. Visit our showroom in Waikapu in Central Maui, where we display a variety of cabinets as well as top-name appliances like Sub-Zero, Wolf, Viking, KitchenAid, and more. We display countertops, tile and wood flooring, and several brands of windows and doors, including Fleetwood multi-slides and La Cantina folding doors. Come in and talk to our designers about making your dreams become a reality. From concept to completion, we really believe our attention to detail and superior service are what sets us apart. Let us show you what we mean. We are a Pacific Source at 515 East Oahe Way in the Consolidated Base Yard in Waikapu, just off Waiko Road. Call us at 986-0380. That's 986-0380, or look us up online at packsource.com.
And we are back with Robert Colasano, who's the Executive Director of Mental Health America of Hawaii, the Maui branch. And we were talking a little bit here just before the break about a program they've got going, Live Your Life Well, that has 10 action steps, I guess we can say, basically reducing stress and improve mental wellness. And he was just beginning to tell us about the PowerPoint presentation that he can come in and present to you. You could do that like in an office setting?
Yeah, exactly. We did it recently for the people that assess clients for insurance services here in Maui. It's a stressful job for them. And so all these case managers, about 15 of them, we were in an office boardroom, and I did that presentation, and it was really great. People got a lot out of it. And then I always follow up that presentation. If people want, I put them on our mailing list, and then I send out educational mental health information on a weekly basis about what's going on and so on.
Is the level of stress in our lives rising?
It's huge.
Is it?
Yeah, it's huge, and you would think it wouldn't be so huge here in Maui, but I know we've talked about this before on our radio station and on our radio program with you, and it's Maui has one of the highest suicide rates in the state of Hawaii, and so there's stress going on, and there's all different kinds of stress: cultural, economic stress, stress when somebody passes away in the family, and some of the indicators of that, if you start just not being able to get up in the morning, sleeping, you don't want to stay in bed, you're overeating, undereating. Everybody can tell when somebody's stressed,
Right.
when you meet them.
And in a situation like if something traumatic happens, can trigger stress.
Oh, sure.
And certainly a mental illness type of situation. And I think the thing that bothers me the most is that people don't take advantage of the opportunities out there. Like I have a very good friend on Oahu who many years ago had a stressor situation that happened to them. And it was devastating to them at the time.
Yeah.
And all the friends could see what was happening to this person. Finally, one day, she went in for a physical because she was just thinking her system was shot. And the doctor did the usual physical things and then sat her down and said, "You know what? I've got this psychologist I'd like for you to go see." And she took that as, that was like a knife in her gut, that she needed to talk to somebody and that what was going on was happening in her head.
Yeah.
And is that a typical reaction?
Yeah, actually, very, very, very typical that we have bodily reactions to our stress. Because just imagine if you are stressed out and you hold your stress in your back, like your back muscles are taut, as a result of stress. That's going to throw your whole back out of alignment. You're going to have like lower back problems. You know, I don't think it's a coincidence then that we say some people are a pain in the neck. You know,
Right.
because when those people stress us out,
Right.
you know, maybe we hold our stress in our shoulders, and you literally have a pain in your.
Yeah.
But it gets worse than that, because untreated stress. Now, let me divert just for a second. Stress is not bad.
Right.
I mean, if we didn't have some stress in our lives, we probably wouldn't get much done.
Right.
So there's all, stress is not bad. It's our reaction to stress. Like if we have work to do on the job, and we might stress about that, but that gives us the impetus to do the job, to do that particular task. But if we have chronic stress that's day in and day out, like a bad marriage or a difficult loved one living with you in the house, or a difficult boss, if you have chronic stress, you have to find a way to address that, or you can develop cancer. You can develop a lot of these diseases that people are calling the modern diseases of our age, diabetes included. That it's a lot of it can be stress related, because stress affects our body negatively. Prolonged stress.
Right. Now, one of the things, like this person did end up going to see the psychologist, and over the years, I mean, they only went like 6-8 sessions, whatever it was, to work themselves through that issue that had happened. And it was like, we now get together and we say, that was a really dark period, but look at you now, because you went to that. We went through the process. Yeah. And I think that's the thing that gets me, is that, okay, yeah, some people take that as a real negative, that I have to talk my problems out with somebody. But that's what they're there for.
That's what they're there for, and it's maybe a function of our culture, of our time, that we don't share a lot of what's going on with us with somebody else. I mean, if you really, ask yourself, who's your best friend, or do you have a best friend, or is there somebody that you can really talk to about stuff? And I wonder if people are really honest, how many people have somebody like that in their lives that they're really transparent with. And I know that's one function of our society that is undermined for whatever reason. And as a result, we've kind of come up with support groups, 12-step programs, men's groups, women's groups, and I think these things are all great, starting small communities. So within the context of a small community of men or a small community of women, then people can start to share more transparently, I use that word, and share about what's going on. And if people did that more, there might be less of a need to pay to have somebody
Right.
listen to us. However, I don't want to say that there isn't really a place for somebody that's skilled,
Right.
and to ask us the right questions.
Right.
Because sometimes, if two people just get together and they complain, that doesn't really help.
Right.
You can find a friend to complain to. But if you do that with a therapist, they might say, well, what was your part in all this, or something. And so that's how we grow.
Right. Right. And a lot of people say it's easier to talk to a stranger.
Yeah.
Especially if there's somebody you're never ever going to see again,
Yeah.
and is never going to know you beyond that discussion. A lot of people are they're more relaxed about that.
That's what the Internet's all about.
Oh.
Yeah. Talk to Spitzer.
Aha.
Because people share things in these Internet chat rooms, and that they that they wouldn't share with anybody else.
Right.
Because at a flick of the switch, they turn off their computer and they may or may not ever talk to that person again. So there's a lot of that kind of in-depth sharing on the internet.
But you have to be aware of that.
It's a lot of it's fantasy, and
Yeah.
goes into play. But it's that aspect.
Yeah.
It's sometimes easier to talk to a stranger. However, a good therapist doesn't remain a stranger for very long. A good therapist has empathetic skills.
Right.
Where you begin to trust that person.
Right.
With your innermost thoughts.
Interesting. So, live your life well. Talking about reducing stress, improving mental wellness, and
I just want to say one more thing.
sure.
When we were talking about sharing,
Mm-hmm.
if somebody is struggling with finding a person in their life to share stuff with, it's great to journal, to just take out a piece
Oh.
of paper and start writing to yourself. That's just a wonderful way to begin the process of exploring what's going on. And in this day and age of computers, it's really easy to get a little computer program where you can just type your whatever you're thinking and password protect it so nobody else sees it. And you can even get a program where you can be on your iPhone and type your thoughts, in the middle of the day on your iPhone, and that'll be password protected on your iPhone. And then when you go to your PC or your Mac, just what you typed in your iPhone will already be there, and you can continue.
Oh, I see.
And so as we're talking about this idea of therapy and just friends talking to friends, if you're at a place where you're not quite sure who to talk to, just start talking to yourself. It's a wonderful, wonderful process to get in touch with what's going on. And then you can go to a therapist and you'll be even more coherent when you talk to your therapist,
Right.
or when you talk to a friend about what's going on.
Because you will have kind of put it in some order.
In words, yeah. Words tumble out on a page, and sometimes and incoherently, but then as you go along, you get a theme of this is what's going on in my life.
So you start to, it could be something that you're not even thinking about that's causing the stressor.
It always is that.
Really.
I mean,
You think it's this, but it's not that. It's that.
Yeah, it's always like example of that when you get mad, for example, something makes you mad. Well, that's like the surface. That's I'm going to say the grossest feeling, for lack of a better term. You're angry. That's like, boom, that's your immediate reaction. But what's underneath that anger? It might be embarrassment. Maybe you got embarrassed. And that's hard for a lot of people to say, honey, you embarrassed me in that situation. I feel embarrassed. That's vulnerable, as opposed to rawr, getting angry. That's the easy thing. So usually underneath these primary expressions of feeling, there's always like a delicate feeling. And those delicate feelings are the ones we need to share. And then once you share that, oftentimes they go away. Oftentimes they go away. That's what it's all about. And if you share that, but it's a delicate feeling like embarrassment or fear that we don't really want to say, I was afraid when you did that to me. We react in anger. But if we say that, then the fear will leave us, the embarrassment leaves us. And that's where it's good to have somebody to tell those
Right.
things to, either a friend or a therapist or on paper.
So talking it through, talking it out, there's still no better way to get things on the table and out of our systems.
That's the only, yeah. Talking, right? That's, I guess, where novelists. Novelists, they write books, and people are, prompted to do their autobiography. That's a lot of what it's all about. But there's no medication.
Right.
There's, medication will treat symptoms, but much better to get to the root cause of, somebody's in a bad marriage, and if they never admit to themselves that they're in a bad marriage, I mean, they can take Prozac and Xanax, to relieve the anxiety, but it's like you can't get to point B unless you know you're at point A. And so then people have to admit their current circumstances, and if they do that, then they can do something about it or not do something about it.
Gotcha. But until you get to that point, it's just going to keep building.
Yeah, and you've asked me like a couple times about your Live Your Life Well seminar, and that's the stuff we talk about. We talk about helping people to reduce stress in very simple ways that they can do, and it's not rocket science, but it takes courage. All this stuff, mental health stuff, always takes courage.
All right.
Because we have little demons that we want to keep secret.
We don't want anybody to know we have a problem.
We don't want anybody to know that we're vulnerable.
That's a good point. That's exactly it. We're vulnerable. Yes. Okay, so now you've got again, we talked about the suicide rate. We talked about there was a thing called Invisible Children's Project.
Yeah, that's on Oahu. That was,
okay.
That's the function. There's a film called Invisible Children, and it talks about and it illustrates how a child actually becomes invisible in a home where there's mental illness, because all the focus goes towards the mental illness, and that's so true in every family. When somebody is physically ill seriously or mentally ill in an ongoing chronic state, all the energy in the family goes towards that. And I know that from my own family. I have a clinically depressed brother who's been depressed for 15 years, and it just saps the energy from my family back there on the mainland. So I know how it is. You call home to your family and how's Dave? You always end up talking about that.
That becomes a subject of conversation every time around. So, do you have any things coming up that you want to talk about?
I do. You want to talk about them now?
Getting close on time.
Are we getting actually close
Yep.
to time? Okay. Yeah, I just want to mention a couple things. We're doing a really cool program here on Maui where we're teaching people with mental illness. Once again, I use the word consumers. They're consumers of mental health services. We're teaching them to work with other consumers of mental health services. And so if somebody has a mental health illness and is stable, they can call my number, 242-6461. If they're stable and they want to work with other people in the community that have a mental illness and be compensated for that, I'd be happy to talk to them. And also I want to share our fundraiser is October 12th, and we're having a mixer with the mayor. The mayor has been gracious enough to work closely with Mental Health America. On October 12th, you can buy tickets at tickets.mauimentalhealth.org.
Okay. And that's going to just about do us for today. Boy, we went right up to the wire. I'm sorry I took you off on that the other discussion, so we didn't get to those, but we've got time. We'll get you back on and talk about those details. Again, this is Maui Nonprofit Notes, your weekly radio show where we talk story with our executive directors and their staff to find out what's happening in our community. We encourage everybody to get involved with your favorite nonprofit, volunteer, giving, advocating, whatever the case might be. And please tune in again next week when we'll be back here at KAOI AM, 1110 AM, 96.7 FM. I'm Susie Tiemann, the president of the Maui Nonprofit Directors, and have a great week. Aloha.